All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to be exploring Bell Hook's incredibly powerful work, Black Looks. Think of it as an urgent call to action, a challenge really, to completely transform how we see and understand race and representation in all our media.
And yeah, Hooks is not messing around here. She makes it clear right from the jump. This isn't just some quiet academic book. It's a direct challenge to the way things are, and it's designed to shake us up a bit. So for our purposes today, we're treating her work as exactly that, a practical, hands-on toolkit. It's a guide for anyone out there who's committed to social change, especially when it comes to culture and media.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the tools, we first have to understand the problem Hooks is laying out. She calls it a crisis, and it's all rooted in what she terms the colonizing gaze. Basically, the harm that racist imagery in our media does to all of us.
And this quote she pulls from Stuart Hall? Wow. It just raises the stakes sky high. This tells us that representation isn't just about movies or pictures. It's about power. It's about who gets to control the narrative, and how that control is used to keep systems of domination in place. And, this kind of control, it has real consequences. Being bombarded with negative or stereotypical images does some serious psychological damage. Hooks says it creates these deep wounds in our collective psyche, which can lead to things like self-hatred and internalized racism.
And this cycle of internalized racism, it is vicious. Hooks points out that even Black creators who are trying to make it in a system that wasn't built for them can sometimes end up recreating the very stereotypes they're trying to fight. She gives examples, like how Tyler Perry's films pull in huge Black audiences but often rely on old tropes, or how a Beyoncé cover for Time magazine might reinforce a very specific, white-centric standard of beauty. The end result is that the whole system just gets stronger.
All right, so that's the pretty heavy problem. The big question is, what's the solution? Well, Hooks doesn't just leave us with the diagnosis. She actually gives us the tools we need to fight back and create a totally new way of seeing.
The very first step, the foundation, is this idea of decolonization. And it's not just a trendy buzzword. It's a deep, personal process of confronting and unlearning all the dominant, oppressive ways of thinking that we've all been taught. It's truly an act of liberation.
And at the absolute heart of this process is something really radical that Hooks talks about: loving Blackness as political resistance. I mean, think about it. In a culture that so often devalues Blackness, the simple act of loving it is an incredibly powerful, deeply political act.
And as Hooks puts it so beautifully here, this isn't about excluding anyone. It's a practice of healing. It's about building a foundation of self-love that allows us to engage with the world in a constructive way, moving beyond just bitterness or rage.
Okay, this brings us to one of the most important ideas from Hooks, the oppositional gaze. This is not about just sitting back and watching something passively. It's a conscious, political way of looking, something she says was especially cultivated by Black women spectators. It's a gaze that looks back, that questions everything, and that refuses to just accept what it's being shown.
So let's break that down, right? You've got these two totally different ways of looking. On one hand, you have the imperial or colonizing gaze. That one is all about power over someone else. It turns people into objects. But the oppositional gaze? That's an act of taking your power back. It's about talking back to the screen and refusing to be dominated by the image.
All right, so we've got the theory down. But what do we do with it? How does this work in the real world? This next part is all about putting it into practice, using these ideas to analyze the media we see every single day.
Whenever we talk about representation, this is usually the first question that pops up, right? Is this a good portrayal? Is it a bad one?
But here's the thing. Hooks says that's totally the wrong question. It's a trap. It keeps us stuck. The real game changer is to shift our thinking and ask a much deeper, more political question. What's the perspective here? Whose point of view are we seeing from, and who benefits from this image? Let's put this into practice. Take a look at how Black female sexuality is often portrayed. So much of it is just recycling old racist ideas from the 19th century, where Black women's bodies are shown as expendable or just hypersexual. Hooks even argues that a modern focus on certain body parts, like the butt, can end up reinforcing objectification instead of challenging it. An oppositional image, on the other hand, would focus on a Black woman's own experience, her pleasure, her subjectivity, her self-awareness. Now, it's really important to say that this work of changing how we see things, it isn't just on Black people. So this next section is about the specific role and, frankly, the responsibilities of non-Black allies, especially white progressives. And Hooks is pretty blunt about this. She offers a sharp critique of a kind of surface-level solidarity. She sees a lot of white progressives who want to be around black people, but they aren't willing to do the much harder work of unlearning the white supremacist ideas they grew up with.
So what does real allyship look like? Well, Hooks uses this quote from Gayatri Spivak to get at the heart of it. It requires something way more radical. In other words, it means you have to give up your dominant position and actually learn to see the world from someone else's perspective. It's not about centering your own feelings of guilt or sadness. It's about decentering the white gaze itself.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. The problem, the theory, how to apply it, and the roles we all have to play. So let's pull all of this together into a clear plan of action.
Here are 3 things you can start doing, like, right now. First, radically intervene. Commit to changing the world of image-making wherever you are. Second, shift your paradigm. Get out of that good versus bad trap and always ask about the political perspective. And third, practice resistance. Actively develop that oppositional gaze and practice loving blackness as the revolutionary act that it is.
And I really want to stress, this is not just some abstract theory. This is essential, practical work that should be at the core of what activists and organizers do. It should be in your mission statements, your community workshops, and every creative project you touch. So, to wrap this up, I've got a mission for you. I want you to conduct an audit of your own gaze. Just think about the TV shows, the movies, the social media you looked at today. And ask yourself, whose image did you love? And maybe, even more importantly, from whose perspective did you look? Because that self-reflection, that's where the revolution really begins.